Alright, what's going on gamers, Mini Machu here, and I'm back with another technique video on how to destroy your opponent's knees. These are completely legal and safe to do in street combat, so make sure you practice them on your buddies, not just on sparring partners. But if you want to do that, go ahead. You know the drill, we're just going to be talking about 3 techniques in this video and how to perform them. And for consistency purposes, we're going to be using the same scale as the last time with the star system, based on how difficult and easy it is to perform these moves. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First off, we have attacking off of opponents, switching their stances. There are 2 high-level instances of this happening, that being Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov, and Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. In both cases, these would lead up to the finishing sequences, but why was it that this move worked on such high-level opponents? With Izzy and Imavov took advantage of Izzy's bad habit of switching stances in the pocket. While Izzy was still trying to get into the orthodox stance, Imavov was already closing the distance, and because Izzy, especially in the later parts of his career, likes to post and lean away as his main defense, relying heavily on his reach, Imavov was able to close that distance before Izzy could step further away, connecting on the chin. But with Ilia, he landed while Holloway was completely squared up next to him, literally knocking him into southpaw. Holloway went to parry the jab, but didn't see that bomb of a right hand coming his way. But there's more to this than just punching off of the switch stance. In Muay Thai, this would be an excellent moment to teep kick or sweep your opponent, or even go for some calf kicks while your opponent is squared up to you. The legs are just asking to get hit while they're squared up. Looking at someone like Kai Kara France, he's been shown to be very susceptible to kicks landing on him while switching stances. On The Ultimate Fighter, when Pantoja went to go throw kicks, Kai would back up while switching stances, putting an emphasis on protecting his head more so than the body. Fast forward a couple of years to his interim title fight with Brandon Moreno, and he was still doing the same thing, and this was exactly how Moreno was able to TKO him off of the switch stance while he was squared up, digging them toes into the body. So this move is fairly simple to execute. The hardest aspect of it would be just getting the timing down, and you might have to be fairly quick depending on who you're fighting. So for difficulty, I'll be rating it 1.5 stars, as the attacks themselves are mostly fundamental attacks to MMA now, and the effectiveness for this can vary, but seeing 2 championship fights end because of it, and Imavov being the first mixed martial artist, not kickboxer, to knock out Izzy, I will be putting its effectiveness as 3.5 out of 5 stars. It could be a good way to bank damage, whether it be from the teep kicks or the body kicks, and you can go for a knockout with the hands. Because your opponent is squared up, they can't really generate much power, so they're going to be defensively minded, and you would be relatively safe even when throwing in the pocket, and even safer at a kicking range. For the next technique, we have the classic body-body-head combination. Everyone knows the boxing philosophy of going body-body-head to get your opponent to drop their hands and then come up with a shot up top. But we're not talking about boxing, we're talking about MMA. And this one doesn't really require any punches unless you want it to. So the technique that I'm talking about, we just saw happen at UFC 312 with Taliesin Teixeira getting a TKO victory over Justin Tafa. They were against the fence where Justin Tafa was controlling Teixeira's arm with an overhook. Teixeira would go for 2 body knees, making Tafa loosen up that overhook to protect his body as a natural reaction to getting hit there. And Teixeira was able to pull that arm out and land a great elbow, just ending the fight. You might say, it's just Justin Tafa though, he's not that good, which you would be correct in. But if we go back a few years, we could see Demetrius Johnson doing a similar thing to Henry Cejudo in their first fight. Mighty Mouse would throw a bunch of knees, followed by a big elbow, but it was more so the knees that got to Cejudo and allowed DJ to finish the fight. But you could still see Cejudo doing that same natural reaction to protect his body. Tom Aspinall is great at doing this. Tom was able to hurt Sergey Spivak very bad doing this technique, especially because he's so quick and powerful, and at heavyweight, it's a great move for him. But let's talk about the ratings for this move. I would rate the difficulty 2.5 stars out of 5 because you have to have a decent clinch game while attempting this, and hope your opponent isn't Charles Oliveira or Islam Makhachev, because the 2 of them are fantastic in the clinch. But that's why you're supposed to game plan and know your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and try not to fight their game. If you can get that overhook on the far side that you're not attacking, you should be safe in this position. Your opponent only has 1 limb to attack you with, but you would have 1 arm and 2 knees potentially to occupy their 1 limb. Along the fence would be better to do this because of the amount of power that your opponent can generate being a fraction of what it is compared to being in the center, and they're unable to lean away. They're just trapped being there. I think that the hardest part of this would be getting into that clinch position without getting tagged to get there. But in Tom's case, Spivak tried to take him down, and that's how he was able to set it up, by just flowing through the fight and not forcing the position. For its effectiveness, I'll be rating it highly at 4 out of 5 stars. It's not going to finish your opponent 100% of the time, but if you can land multiple knees, one of those is bound to dig into your opponent's belly or ribs, and then following it up with a thudding or slicing elbow is just going to hurt your opponent even more. And then you could go back to those knees if you keep them in that same position, and just keep rinsing and repeating. I think that knees and elbows are the worst kind of strikes to take flush, and personally, elbows are my single favorite strike because you can generate so much force without the risk of breaking your hands inside of a tight space, and with the potential to slice your opponent's face open. So any combinations of elbows on the feet or in the ground and pound, I love. It's like a hook on steroids almost. Shout out to Nansen Sports, he made a YouTube short of this and I saw it, and I thought it would be an excellent technique to, as he puts it, punish natural reactions to strikes. For the final technique, I saw this one from Los Keita, who is a Belgian featherweight that competes in Octagon MMA. Everyone has seen the traditional attacks when catching kicks in MMA, and that is basically to sweep or lift and push your opponent, or spin them around and drag them to the ground. Basically a takedown. But Keita was a little bit more creative with what he did when catching that kick. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this in the UFC, and it's a very simple move. When they throw the kick, step a little bit in the direction that the kick's going as to alleviate the power from it and not break a rib. And you want to catch that kick and bring it up into the armpit. Because it's in the armpit, this is where you make that grip tight. Think of it as trying not to let air go through the gaps in that catch. Basically, it's got to be airtight. However, Keita had a looser grip, so he could only land one oblique kick before his opponent was able to get that leg back. But imagine landing those kicks in succession, and imagine landing that kick later into the fight where your opponent's legs might be a little bit gone, and they're going to struggle a lot to pull that leg out of your armpit. I mean, the opponent would only be able to attack you, but off one leg. You should have enough time to move out of the way of a one-legged flying knee. The only person I could see getting out of this would be Johnny Walker just winging punches. But if someone like Sean Strickland started implementing oblique kicks into his game, he would be one of the best fighters at this because he's so defensively mindful. Catching kicks would be so easy for him. And even if they tried striking their way out of it, he would be able to get out of the way. There are some other setups from here too. John Jones famously knocked down Stephan Bonner with a spinning elbow from a similar position. And Keita did almost the same thing later in the fight instead of the oblique kick. There are so many other setups from here too. You could spin someone around with that leg and throw your own kick to the body or head. It's a very diverse attack, but I liked the oblique kick the most because the one leg keeping the opponent standing has to take 100% of the force or else they're going to fall over. So for difficulty, it depends on which move you're going to be going for. If it's just the oblique kick, then I would say probably like 3 stars. If it's the spinning elbow, you better have practiced that move so many times and drilled it into your brain before the fight. You don't want to be the guy elbowing oxygen and getting your back taken. So to land that one with some steam and power behind it, it would probably be like a 3.5 to 4 stars. I'm gonna lean to 3.5 though. You just gotta make sure you have that range down. The hardest part about this technique is maintaining your own balance while holding a leg and making sure that your opponent isn't just gonna Johnny Walker his way out of it, all while executing your own attack. There's many moving parts to this while attacking. But for the effectiveness of the move, I would say 4. You don't need explosiveness or speed to execute it. Standing on one leg taking that oblique kick is gonna suck no matter who is kicking you. As long as they land it in the right spot, it's gonna be a damaging attack. And for the spinning elbow, the spin itself is what generates the power. You're rotating your body so much with the hips and torso alone that as long as you land it, it's gonna sound like a whip. Catching the kick and attacking off of it is effective because the opponent is mainly thinking to not get swept or taken down, especially if you're a grappler. But this essentially leaves the entire body open. If not the entire body, then at least 2 sections, whether it be the head, body, or legs. They can only defend one of them properly. The worst part about this technique is that if you use it in abundance, your opponent can pick up on this. And what I mean by this is that they won't be kicking your body anymore. They're going to go up top if you're trying to reach for those legs. So you're going to have to be wary about that, because if they fake it and it ends up working on you, you're going to be on the wrong end of a head kick KO highlight. That's all I got to talk about for today, gamers. Make sure you practice these moves on the 43-year-old father of 4 who trains MMA as a hobby 3 nights a week, especially the oblique kick. But before you send that fool to physical therapy for 6 months, make sure you tell him who showed you that move. It took me a while to find these moves from the last video, so probably don't expect another one of these types of videos for at least a couple of more months. But if you did enjoy watching and learning at Mini Machu's MMA gym, then I would appreciate it if you could repay me with a like and subscribe. But until next time, gamers, peace out. Thanks for watching.